Well, before we cut across to our political panelists this evening, I want to go to Rahul Gautam, my colleague who filed the story for India Today, pointing out the discrepancies which were there in the earlier show are not there this time around. And Rahul, to be very fair, there is one point that needs to be noted. It's not an omission of the Nehru-Gandhi family, but sheer limitation of their role, and that the ASI says is due to the fact that there have been a lot of other instances that were looked over in the earlier show, and to include those you had to limit the kind of instances that there were.
Well, absolutely. This was the same argument that was put forward by ASI, saying that they wanted to keep it brief and therefore, several omissions were made. But at the same time, they also, put more spotlight on INA trials, on Maratha, coming out as a major power, and at the same time also about 1857. However, the two omissions that have been made for sure, it is one about Nehru. Earlier there was this mention that how Jawaharlal Nehru, the former Prime Minister, had defended INA soldiers during the infamous INA trials that were conducted inside Red Fort. Now, this reference is completely missing in the newly inaugurated Light and Sound show. At the same time, Mahatma Gandhi was also hailed and described as a torch of the independence movement. However, this time there was no mention of him, and in fact he was only showcased along with the other freedom fighters. Now, obviously, this comes in the backdrop of Congress always alleging that how BJP has been distorting and trying to rewrite the history from their own point of view. In fact, Tushar Gandhi has also reacted to our story, saying that this only shows that how much efforts are being made about rewriting and omitting the efforts and contributions that were made by Nehru and Gandhi. We can expect that this is certainly going to set a stage for confrontation, because Congress spokesperson, we are learning from our sources, are certainly going to issue a rebuttal on this issue, and we expect that this issue is going to become, going to gather more heat in coming days.
No, well, it already has. The Congress already, has seen red over the Red Fort show. But Rahul, away from the political debate, I want to ask you a question which is bothering some historians, and that is, as the show encapsulates history from the 17th century to the present day history, a large part of that was governed by the Mughal dynasty. What is being alleged by a small section of historians is that somewhere down the line we have glorified the Maratha history a lot more than what was the real truth of the Mughal dynasty, which had peaked during that period.
Well, earlier there were apprehensions that, during the newly inaugurated Light and Sound show, Mughals history would be omitted. However, it didn't happen, much, given the fact that if you compare this one with the previous one. But you rightly pointed out that what we are learning from our sources that are placed in ASI, it was because of the time and because of the script that was given and forwarded by Dalmia Group, who has been entrusted with the executing this project. It was their idea to come up with this Light and Sound. So it was their script. ASI only supervised, but because of the fact that now the story has gone beyond from 1947. Earlier, the story was still 1947 when the previous Light and Show was happening. But now the story has moved beyond. It has gone to 2014, and therefore these omissions and changes we are witnessing. But obviously, the Congress party and the other people, in fact, there are many historians also who are voicing their opinion, saying that this is not a good sign for a healthy democracy, and certainly they're going to come up, on this issue and going to issue a statement very soon, about as to how it's being made.
All right, Rahul, appreciate you joining us. I want to quickly cut across to our political panelists, because understandably the Congress not very happy with the depiction of both Mahatma Gandhi and Pandit Nehru. But to be fair, Gurdeep Sapal, it's not that the role of Mahatma Gandhi or the role of Pandit Nehru has been omitted. It has been limited of sorts. In terms of Pandit Nehru, the fact is, yes, that Pandit Nehru was an advocate. He was a lawyer who stood for the army, Subhash Chandra Bose's army, through all the trials that took place at the Red Fort. Yes, that has been omitted. But the most significant part, at the stroke of midnight, where Pandit Nehru's role when it came down to the independence movement, all of that has been encapsulated.
Iti, first of all, let me respond to this by saying that Pandit Nehru and Mahatma Gandhi, they were not just the leaders of Congress party. They did not fight the war of independence for Congress party, but for this nation, for every citizen of this country. They brought independence to India. They led the independence movement, and so they are not limited to Congress party. And if their role is omitted by commission,
Limited,
by
Mr. Sapal,
whomsoever, no,
limited, not omitted.
let me complete it. Now, coming first, let me put on record that limiting role is the agenda of current government. They have been trying to do it in many ways. But coming to this present controversy, either this is a history of independence movement or it is a history of Red Fort. It's a light and sound show at Red Fort. So either it is about Red Fort or about independence movement. If it is about independence movement, then certainly the role of Jawaharlal Nehru in fighting the case by forming defense committee, the case of INA, which is famously known as Lal Killa trials, cannot be omitted. Certainly the role of Mughals who built this Lal Killa cannot be omitted. And certainly in the independence, the history of independence, Marathas cannot be given a credit because the regime of Maratha ended in 1818 when they lost the Third Anglo-Maratha War. And after that, Maratha Empire was led by Sindhia, by Holkar, by Baroda, by Holkar, Sindhia. They were all vassals of British Empire. They never fought any war of independence. By Holkar, Bhosle, Gaikwad, Sindhia, they were all vassals of British Empire. So their history cannot be included in the history of independence movement which is being shown in Lal Killa. Number one. Number two, what are we talking about? This is the history of independence movement. Jawaharlal Nehru ji, he was not just a freedom fighter, he was also the first Prime Minister of India. He was elected by Indian people in 3 elections, 52, 57 and 62. He got 45 to 48% votes in this country. Even today, BJP has not crossed 38%. Today, after getting 1/3 of votes, BJP thinks that Narendra Modi ji is demigod, and same people of India who elected Nehru ji thrice by almost 48% vote, he can be belittled, his role can be belittled. We forget that he spent 9 years in jail. We forget that there was a relationship between him and Subhash Chandra Bose, whose entire INA, it symbolized the spirit of freedom movement.
Okay, I want to bring in. Okay, hold that thought. Okay, Mr. Sapal,
the leaders of INA,
may I bring in Aparajita Sarangi, your co-panelist, also into this conversation? Aparajita Sarangi, there are two credible points that have been raised by Mr. Sapal. I'll add one more to it. With also what he said, the fact is the Indian National Army, Subhash Chandra Bose, there has been an attempt to somewhere down the line alienate Pandit Nehru from what he did with the INA is a charge which the Congress is making. The fact that Pandit Nehru, who was a lawyer, fought for the INA through its trials at the Red Fort is completely been omitted, number one. Number two, if we have a father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi, do you not think he deserves a special mention rather than, and it's nothing wrong in doing so, rather than him being named with all other freedom fighters, is the charge that the Congress is making and certain historians as well?
A very good evening. See, I'm not at all surprised. To every action of Prime Minister Modi, there would be an equal and opposite negative reaction from the Congress. Congress has to criticize because it's a question of their relevance. Now, here it is reading too much between the lines. This show, which resumed after 5 years, I think needs to be seen in proper light, and the objective behind having this kind of show should be understood by one and all. The young generation should know about the real heroes and heroines of our history, because I think we are all responsible for the way that they are brought up in the days to come. And as far as this particular show is concerned, let's not forget that this was a light and sound show for 1 hour, and the intention was to showcase 4 major events, 4 major incidents, 4 major episodes. One, the rise of the Marathas, which of course was elaborately highlighted. Number 2, our Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose's INA, which had a major role to play in the national struggle, freedom struggle. And number 3, 1857, the first war of independence. And number 4, very important, India's continuing progress over the last 75 years. We are not talking of 8 years, we are talking of 75 years. Now, all these things had to be highlighted within that 1 hour. And, there's a question of time frame also. The Congress has to see things positively. We have to encapsulate everything within those 1 hour, and that is why we have to limit certain things. I appreciate, Preeti, the word that you used. It was limitation, it was not omission. Never say that we did not talk about Mahatma Gandhi. Never ever say that. Mahatma Gandhi has guided and has been guiding our Swachh Bharat campaign. He is our logo, he is everywhere with us. How can we think of omitting Mahatma Gandhi ji?
But Ms. Sarangi, the charge is, Ms. Sarangi, the charge is, and I'll bring in Gurdeep Sapal after you answer it. The charge is that Mahatma Gandhi has been referred to or invoked alongside all the other freedom fighters that fought for India's independence. The earlier show had a special mention of Mahatma Gandhi as the father of the nation, the one who scripted India's freedom struggle. There's a huge school of thought which would say, what's wrong in naming the Mahatma with the other freedom fighters? But then there is the other school of thought, and Mr. Tushar Gandhi has also raised the point, the sheer fact that, you can't equate the Mahatma with everybody else. He's the father of the nation. He deserved special mention.
See, I tell you, it depends on us what kind of spectacles we choose to use and see things from. The fact remains that Mahatma Gandhi guides all our programs and all our actions. We are all well aware of the fact. And our great leaders, Mahatma Gandhi and Bhagat Singh, were projected on the walls. It was just a question of raising these 4 issues, highlighting these 4 episodes, these events within that 1 hour. And I must say, a part of Nehru's speech of August 15, 1947 was also shown. And in fact, it was the entire thing was wrapped up by a portrait sequence of Indian Prime Ministers. And of course, Jawaharlal Nehru ji has been a very important part of this particular show. So to say that we kind of omitted our great leaders, I think this is absolutely far from the truth.
Okay.
And I think
Gurdeep Sapal, time constraint, you needed to include various incidents in India's history right from 17th century. Limitation of time, not omission of leaders.
Yes, Preeti, there is a time constraint. So what you choose to omit is very important. Will BJP tell us why did it not tell people that when INA trials were going on, the only party which appeared in defense was Congress party. There were 3 leaders, Shahnawaz, Dhillo and Sehgal. RSS said that it will fight for Sehgal. Muslim League said that it will fight for Shahnawaz. Akali Dal said that it will fight for Dhillo. It was only Congress party who said we will fight for INA. Why is this omitted? Why is this omitted that Hindu Mahasabha and RSS recruited people in British Army to defeat INA? This is omitted. This is the crux. What you try to omit. Why did it omit in INA, in the Lal Killa history, that it was Subhash Chandra Bose who called Gandhiji father of nation? Does it not require any mention in 60 minutes of history of Red Fort? This is important. And about Marathas. Yes, Marathas were a great force. Before 1818, when they were defeated, they ruled the most of this country. But the fact also remains that they came to Delhi and fought against Najib-ud-Dawla on the invite of the Prime Minister of Mughals, Imtad Mulk. They did not come and fight against the Mughals. They fought the Afghan forces on the invitation of Mughals. They won the war and handed over the Red Fort back to Mughals. Will BJP tell us why, if Marathas had won the Red Fort, why did it give it back to Mughals and went back? Were they later defeated by Mughals? No, they were never defeated by Mughals. They defeated Mughals more than 6 times. But when they won the Red Fort, they gave it back to Mughals because they were invited by Mughals. Does this not deserve any mention in the history of Red Fort? Is it such a small thing?
Okay.
Because BJP wants to view history from its own prism, they are distorting history. The
Okay.
question is not limiting the role of
20 seconds
Gandhiji.
before I close the show. Elucidated by
Gandhiji.
Mr. Sapal, charges you are distorting history, including the representation of Marathas.
We are not distorting history. We are actually putting history in true light. This is the difference
Please
between
answer my
Congress
question.
and the
But
Bharatiya
Ms.
Janata
Sapal,
Party.
but
And I
Ms.
must say
Sarangi,
that Congress is
but Ms.
suffering
Sarangi,
from
the fact
identity
is
crisis.
17th century was an era
Yes.
where the Mughal dynasty was peaking. The fact that Shah Jahan is behind the Red Fort, all of that, in terms of pure history, all of that just finds passing mention.
I tell you, 4 issues have to be highlighted within 1
But
hour,
please answer my
and we did
question.
not omit any of our great leaders. And I tell you once more that a doctor is known to a patient. A doctor is not known to a healthy person. The leaders who are already there, who are already on the platform, whom
Sarangi,
everybody
please reply
knows,
to my
need
question
not be
about Marathas.
highlighted once again. Those
Okay.
who are not
Why have you
known
not
to
shown
others
Marathas
should
were
be
invited
put
by
in true
Mughals?
light. And our young generation should know about the heroes and heroines who are actually not brought to the fore. So I think this is what the Bharatiya Janata Party and the central government have been trying to do, to put history in the true light, and all the heroes and heroines who are unsung till now should be brought to the fore.
Preeti.
That's the intention.
Mrs. Sapal, I'm terribly out of time. You have 5 seconds, sir. 2 words you
because
can
I
say.
put some questions to Ms.
Okay.
Sarangi.
Those
She has
questions were
replied
not
to those
answered.
questions.
Okay,
Yeah.
but the fact is, I'm going to leave it at that. Let's agree to disagree, especially when it comes down to the history of
No, it's not a question
India.
of disagreement. It's a question of facts.
Okay, it's a question of facts is what the Congress says. With that, I want to end the show. Do join us. What we're going to do is we're going to also once again go back to the new Sound and Light show, because there have been a few more discrepancies that have been pointed out. There was bound to be controversy. The fact that the entire light and sound show at the Red Fort was being reimagined, rescripted, there was bound to be controversy. And what you see is a fallout of exactly that politically this time around.